Have you ever woken up one day and just said, I don't feel like studying languages today? That's a normal thought for language learners to have. However, if you're experiencing that thought more days than not feeling so enthusiastic about your language journey anymore, you may be suffering from burnout. Now, burnout and preventing burnout, while trying to get back in the swing of things and then preventing it from happening in the first place, both require work. I mean, it's not effortless. It's not something that's natural. And so it requires a lot of thought. However, I will say that preventing burnout actually is easier than trying to get back into the swing of things. Now, it's not something that you suffer overnight. You don't just wake up one day like it may seem on the surface, where you say, I don't want to study languages anymore. I no longer find enjoyment in it. There were small things that added up for you to eventually feel that way. But it just didn't get that way overnight. There were things here and there over time that eventually got you to that point. Now, to figure out what those were and analyze them, that requires a lot of thought. It can be very difficult. And because of that, that's where preventing a language learning rut or burnout actually is easier. Now, how can we do that? Well, you hear the term self-care often is a popular topic, and that applies to language learning, even if you view language learning as a form of self-care. Now, there's a few ways that can look in your language learning journey. The first way is making sure you get enough sleep. And I know that may sound pretty obvious, but seriously, if I don't get enough sleep, I end up making mistakes that I normally wouldn't make. I have to think harder and focus more, and because of that, I just end up tripping myself up sometimes. Now, maybe you're making mistakes because it has something to do with what you've learned, maybe you don't feel like you know the material yet, but also if it's something that you know and you're confident that you know, could be that you're not getting the rest that you need in order for your brain to just feel refreshed and be able to focus, but not have to focus too hard and not be able to concentrate when you're trying to have those conversations. Another thing that you can do is make sure that you build fun activities into your routine. We're not always going to like what we have to learn in language learning. There are topics that we're not interested in. For me, numbers have always been a difficulty. Not sure why, but I don't always enjoy learning about numbers. However, they're a part of language learning. I need to use them at some point. And so because of that, yeah, you're not always going to enjoy every topic or every part of grammar that you have to learn or every activity that you need to complete. But if you never schedule any fun time in your language learning journey or in your routine, then you're just going to end up not enjoying it. And if that feeling gets prolonged and it's too long where you just don't enjoy it ever, then you're not going to want to do it anymore. You're eventually going to get burnt out because you're going to be saying, well, I never enjoy it. I don't do anything fun. And it's just a chore. It feels like homework. I don't even know why I started learning in the first place. So make sure you build in at least a little bit of time for an activity that you enjoy, whether that's speaking with a native speaker, reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching your favorite TV show in your target language. It could be any of those. Also, don't overstudy. There is a such thing as too much of a good thing. Even if you live, eat, and breathe languages, you still need to take breaks. And you still need to have boundaries in your language learning. Because if you don't, you could end up overworking yourself without even realizing it. It happens, and it's just good to either schedule some time and not study outside of that time, or just schedule breaks within your learning. Just having boundaries in general can be very helpful when it comes to your routine and kind of maintaining that consistency in your language learning journey without tiring yourself out, especially over-tiring yourself out for a long period of time, which can end up resulting in burnout. Another way that you could prevent burnout is through self-awareness. Now, what does that look like? That can mean a lot of things. However, as I mentioned before, this example actually covers both self-care and self-awareness, but know what activities light you up. Know which ones you enjoy, and incorporate those into your language learning journey. So maybe you don't know which ones you enjoy and which ones to incorporate into your routine. Well, just pay attention to the activities you're doing. See what you end up enjoying, and then put a little bit of that, at least a bit of that, into your routine if possible. Another way that you could do that is to know whether this is something that you would want to do professionally or should remain a hobby. For some people, they really want to work with languages in the future. They know that they want to teach languages, or they know that they want to work in another country where they'll need to use that language, or they know that they want to be an interpreter, a translator, or that whatever job that they're looking for will require speaking that language, and they're okay with that. They know that they want to major in it in college or university. Well, for some people, sometimes turning a skill into a profession ends up kind of killing your joy for the thing that you enjoyed doing before. While there are many benefits to using languages in work, which there really are many, I don't want to discourage anybody from not using them as part of their career if they know that's what they want to do. But for those who know that they don't want a career teaching or interpreting, translating, or whatever, they don't want a career using their languages, well then I would say don't force yourself to do that, because once again it goes back to the point of doing something every day and continuing that thing. You're going to equate that negative experience to your language learning, and after doing that for too long, it's going to be hard to separate those, or at least more difficult than it would have been earlier on. And then that could end up making you feel one day like, I really don't want to use languages anymore. And then even in your spare time, you're not going to have that enthusiasm to study because you just equate it to your work. Another thing is to know your limits. And it kind of goes back to the point of boundaries that I mentioned before when it comes to self-care and language learning. If you're an introvert and you want to learn how to speak a language, and you muster up that energy to be able to speak with a language exchange partner, stay true to the amount of time that you originally had planned. Maybe the conversation is going very well and you know that, oh, it's okay if I go over this allotted period of time a little bit. But other times, if you just keep going and going, like there was one time where I was in a language exchange for, I don't know, it was like several hours. Well, that was a lot. And then after that, I kind of felt like I need more time between now and my next language exchange rather than being able to be consistent, because I just had no boundaries. I did not end the conversation when we had initially planned. Finally, another part of self-awareness is knowing what methods work best for you. That can mean, because there are so many methods out there, you hear it through online teaching, you hear different methods of how to learn in the classroom or how languages are taught in the classroom, but just being more general here as a very, very vague example. Knowing whether you would like being in the classroom environment and whether you would learn best there, or whether you would prefer teaching yourself or taking an online course, for instance, because classroom learning isn't for everybody. Some people just really don't enjoy learning languages in the classroom and don't get anything out of it, and that's a waste of your time, it's a waste of your feelings, it's a waste of your brain power. So if you know that classroom learning is not for you, then, maybe consider not forcing yourself to take a class. Or if you know that you're not disciplined enough for self-teaching and you've tried everything with language learning, tried a strict regimen, tried being a little bit more lenient or setting reminders or whatever that is, then maybe you would do well in the classroom. Maybe having that set schedule every week or every day for that period of time and then having homework would actually force you to have that discipline. So it's about knowing yourself as a learner and kind of how you work, how your learning style is, what all that means. Now, I will actually be going more in depth on this topic at the Women in Language Conference this year, and that's coming up in a few weeks. It'll be September 17th through 20th, and it's a few days long online conference. Anyone can access it anywhere in the world. You just have to purchase a ticket, and it's wonderful. There are 29 of us speaking there. I will be one of them, talking about self-awareness and staying the course as you learn a language. kind of going more in depth with what I just talked about in this video. My goal is that by the end of this talk, you have a blueprint to understanding yourself more as a language learner so that you can successfully learn a language. Now, I am super excited about all of the talks there. There are great speakers. If you're looking for language inspiration in general and new, fresh voices to follow that you may not have known before, that is a wonderful event for you to get connected with other language learners and also language teachers, language enthusiasts, you name it, from around the world. Now, I have a link, and it's an affiliate link, so if you do purchase a ticket through that link, I do get a commission. However, I will leave that in the description box, and you can sign up for your ticket, and that'll be in just a few weeks. Also, in latest news, I am on Instagram now, same as my Twitter handle, Passion for Lang. Yes, I finally broke down and got an Instagram account, and on that account, I'm sharing my language journey, also sharing language stories of the people I've met throughout my language journey, and it's just super exciting to, I keep saying super exciting, it really is cool to be able to share that part of my life and that experience with other language learners, and hopefully inspire you guys to be able to live your languages as well, because trust me, my life wasn't always like this. Languages have been a part of my life, but there was a point where I really did only speak English, and now just reflecting on that part of my journey has really motivated me, and I'm so happy that I get the chance to share this with you. Also, just some updates. I know I mentioned my grandmas and everything. One of them has been doing better, and then the other one, which is my dad's mom, she has dementia, and so she has been steadily declining in her health for several months now, and it's been very difficult to see, but she is back home. I thank you for bearing with me throughout this whole period of not making any videos. I did intend on making some sooner, but then in June I ended up experiencing a very tragic loss of somebody very, very close to me. So it's been a little bit hard to get in front of the camera during that time. But I am back for now, and I look forward to sharing more language learning tips and encouragement with you guys. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.